Welcome, everyone. The Ufonaut Light, August 10th. Wow, August 10th already, 2010. I'm your host, Jesse Randolph. And as always, welcome to the program. Ufonaut Light, of course, every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It's here for you, the listener, to have a direct contact with myself, with Ms. Sandy Fleming, our news correspondent, talk about the week's events, talk about ufology, exopolitics, the paranormal, new science, and really let our guard down a little bit. We talk about what's irking us. Sometimes it's on topic, sometimes it's a little off, and that's absolutely okay. There's a lot on my mind these days, and there's plenty on your mind, I would imagine, too. Like minds meeting together twice a week. Our flagship show, of course, which is Saturdays, every Saturday, with a replay on Sundays now at KPAM 860 AM on the dial here in Portland Metro. If you're interested, of course, our new website, very exciting, is ufonautradio.com. That's UFONAUT radio.com. We've got a brand new site up there with a lot of interesting ways you can get involved and talk to us and explore and get information. We have a fantastic Facebook audience, which we encourage you to join as well. You can contact Jesse Randolph, R-A-N-D-O-L-P-H, if you want to get involved with that. And a lot of things going on. Last week's guest, we talked about chemtrails over at KPAM this past Saturday. There's a brand new video up on the website right now. What I've been doing is I've been releasing these 10-minute snippets. Now, again, I'm no Spielberg, although I'd love to chat with him, as he should do a little bit more for us ufology folks, I think, especially in the financial aspect. We've talked about that. But I am no Spielberg. He's a genius filmmaker, and I am not. So what you're seeing is my personal attempt at doing the best job possible at cutting some video for you guys to see what it's like inside the studio, inside KPAM, inside the mothership, what I do on my Saturday nights, what gets me off. And that's there for you. So if you go to ufonautradio.com, you can catch the featured video. It's right there in the right-hand corner. It's real easy. Right there on the home page. You don't have to go anywhere else. You just click play, and you can hear the top 3 news items of the interest for that particular week. We're going to try to do that as much as possible for you guys, and hopefully you enjoy it. Now, plenty going on. Plenty to get a little disturbed about in a certain way, because here we have some really great stories breaking in ufology recently. And again, they seem to just come and go. They just come and they go. A lot of people, in fact, I had an email the other day on Facebook, someone telling me that I should be providing the forum, which I didn't understand, for how this proof gets out to the masses. Well, in a way, I'm trying to do that. That's what this show represents, but also with the Conspiracy Theater launching in Portland this week, which is going to be exciting. The first ever theater devoted to conspiracy films. I don't know of any other, and I think Portland is going to love it. This is a great way to let people not only be entertained, but to expose them to all kinds of information they've never seen before. We're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up. But here was 2 stories, getting back to this, that came and went. People say there's no proof. I brought on James Fox. I know what I saw, came and went. Whistleblowers left and right. They come and go. China closes down an airport, reroutes 2 other airports because of a UFO. A UFO, not an IFO. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it was, and they're sure as heck not going to give us any information. But there you go. There it is. Then what happens next week? Winston Churchill, Dwight Eisenhower, president-elect, one of our best presidents, to some. Did they cover up UFOs? Absolutely. There it is in black and white. Did we get this information from All News Web or UFO Digest or another publication that you might go, well, I'm not sure, they might have a slanted view, or where did they get this information from? They didn't want to divulge the source. Remember we went through that with the Pickering brothers about the UN meetings. They didn't want to divulge their sources. That's not what happened here. This was National Archive documents that came out saying these guys covered up UFO reports, accurate, real UFO reports, because of fear of panic and other reasons probably they didn't even talk about or discuss what their ulterior motives were. Look, at the end of the day, I had dinner with somebody last night that I respect. We closed down a restaurant. We were talking, and we were so into what we were talking about. But what was I sure of was one of the questions that came up. And I said, well, what I am sure of is that there's an ET presence. What I am positive of is that they've been here probably long before us, and if not, helped us arrive here. You can take that any way you'd like. What I'm not sure about is how much interaction there has been between governments of the world and the ET folks. I'm not sold yet on the fact that we've done joint operations together. If you heard the show with Stuart Swerdlow, he claims that we've done multiple projects with these people. He paints a picture very close to the movie Men in Black, even though it was a comedy. But, you know, there was this subterranean other dimension to our society that existed where a black programs were working in conjunction with aliens, and they went about doing all kinds of projects, and they were able to jump via stargates to different planets and solar systems and alike, and this was a reality. Everything you see in science fiction, basically, to be true. Is that the case? I'm not sure. I will tell you one thing. Many people enjoyed this Swerdlow show, which is up right now, by the way, for download over at UFOTV.com. But why they enjoyed it was because Swerdlow is by no means a dummy. And that's what we really try to bring you, if you've noticed, is I try to get highly intelligent people who make sometimes miraculous claims. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about going, wow, how could this person be this genius level entity and saying these things that are just so foreign to me? Well, they were saying that for years about all kinds of scientific ideology and such, weren't they? Well, without further ado, let's get Miss Fleming on the phone here live from Los Angeles and get her opinion, because it always matters to this show. She's growing leaps and bounds. Her fan base, from what I've heard through the grapevine, is getting pretty popular. Sandy, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Jesse. A little bit under the weather today. Must have caught a bug on my camping trip over the weekend, but hanging in there.
Okay. Fair enough. I heard that you did go camping. Go ahead. Do you want to tell us about your camping trip at all?
Well, I tried so hard to call in a UFO, unfortunately, to no avail. But I wanted to add a comment to stories that come and go. Recently, I heard a recent interview by the former Prime Minister, Paul Hellyer of Canada. And we all know that he came out to, the Canadian government. He also tried to get into the Canadian news media about the truth of UFOs and was not given that much attention. The only attention he got was in alternative news. But if we think about this, imagine if, like, George Bush or Bill Clinton came out and said to our country, I know the truth about UFOs. It needs to be investigated. I want to go on ABC and Fox News. And it was hushed. That's a big, big deal. And Paul Hellyer did that in Canada. And it's another one of the stories that you mentioned that comes up and goes away.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's one of these issues where it really is the catch-22. I said it's the ultimate catch-22. There is proof coming out the doors, busting open. Okay? We don't have a problem with proof, kids. We got no place to put it. Nightline's going to show you, and your local news is going to do the zoo story of the day, as they usually do, with the cute panda or whatever little light story at the end of the day. This stuff is off limits. You know this by now. What can you do about it? Nothing. That's the way it goes. Obviously, this is a taboo subject by the controlled media for very important reasons. My guess if you want my personal opinion, which only means for what it's worth, it's my personal opinion, is that the panic is still very much there. Everyone seems to think we're ready to handle the truth. Everyone seems to think that we can handle it, we can take it, it's our right, it's our responsibility to know these things. And maybe that's true. But I can tell you this, Middle America and the people that I run into that still think this stuff is all science fiction, could you imagine if all of a sudden the reality was slapped into their face? Do you actually think, Sandy, that these people could just click on a dime and handle it?
You know, Jesse, there's people in both camps. You know, you see kids going to, you know, you look at some of these Roswell videos when they have their yearly meetings. There's kids there dressed up in costumes, and they're not all people that are they're not aware of the UFO, the truth about UFOs, and they're curious. They're asking, you know, their parents and the experts, you know, whether or not this is true. In fact, you know, Colonel Philip Corso, they did, I know Open Minds did a story on him and the book that he came out with, and he says in his book, the reason I'm doing this is because my kids want to know what Grandpa did in the Army. And, you know, his interaction was working with UFO technology. And kids are interested. But, you know, the people that I think really can't handle it are the people that have been wanting to debunk this and are scared of the reality of what this means to their religion more than anything.
Well, think about it for a second. Let's talk about the scared part. Sometimes I think they've got plenty to be scared of. Now, I'm not going to jump into the Stephen Hawking camp. Hawking's talking about, you know, these rogue aliens that are going to come here and Mad Max us. I'm not talking about that. But I think, let's go back to Swerdlow a couple of weeks ago. Here's a guy that seems to be very intuitive, very smart, and he's bringing about some new concepts, in my opinion, some new ideas, which were, hey, it's not this Star Trek mentality of we can't get involved. That's not the thought process of these extraterrestrials. They're just not interested in our best interest. They use our planet for what they need it for, and they move on. It's not that they're sitting there as our spirit guides or watching over us to make sure that we don't do anything wrong and all these beautiful things that we'd like to think. They said that it's a more of a malevolent type situation, and that we are considered bugs or non-entities almost, or subhuman, or however you want to put it. And John Lear spoke about this years ago. He said, you don't want to know the truth. It's scary stuff. Trust me, you do not want to know the truth. It's not happy, blonde, beautiful-looking Pleiadians that want to jump in the sack with you. No. It's a lot more frightening. So do I think people can handle the truth? I'm not so sure. And what I'm positive of, pretty much, is I don't think people want this to be true, which is something that it seems we both agree on, correct?
Yes. I do agree that there are people that don't want this to be true because it shatters would be their entire belief system about how the universe works and what their, you know, belief systems are. But I disagree with the part that they're all malevolent beings. I'm in the camp that we do have these positive beings that are watching over us, that the earth is an amazing, beautiful resource of beings that have free will, and that there is an observance that is going on from a benevolent being. And there are a lot of people in that camp, and not just I don't think they're just a bunch of, you know, the hoo-ha, new agey spiritual people, but we've had people in the military. We've had Robert Dean. We've had Daniel Salter, Sergeant Major Daniel Salter, and Robert Dean, whom you interviewed, who have both come out, who I believe are very credible men with credible backgrounds, to say that yes, there is the negative force, but there is also the positive force, and I'm trying to stay open to that. I guess the truth is I don't want it to be just negative beings.
Oh, and there's no reason to believe that it is all negative, Sandy. I guess I try to paint a picture of why this subject is so taboo when, like you said, you have the high